Good evening and welcome to Codebase Alpha and episode 24. Yes, episode 24. And we're continuing to look at our chatbot that we're building. This is a conversational chatbot with AI eventually, which is going to be used for finding out about streams, live coding streams. A bit like our Elixir skill, but perhaps a little bit more advanced in terms of what it can do. Before we go much further, let's let you know that the AlphaBot is in chat today. We're doing a little bit of work over the weekend on the AlphaBot, and it's all ready. And so one thing I want to point out to everyone is what's happening in a few days' time. If we type in the command launches and then SpaceX, then we should get, oh, I misspelt that. Let's try it again. Launches SpaceX. We'll get a list of SpaceX rocket launches coming up in the next few days, and the top one there is the Starlink launch on May the 16th. And this is quite an exciting launch because it's going to be launching a bunch of satellites, in fact 60 satellites for the Starlink project that SpaceX is launching, and we can ask our bot about that. So if I type in !ask and then what is Starlink, we should get a good answer from the bot about that, so you can follow the link and find out all about it. So Starlink is eventually going to be a constellation of 12,000 satellites which will provide completely global broadband coverage across the entire planet. So even at the North Pole or the South Pole, you'll get broadband. So that's quite an interesting project that SpaceX is undertaking. So that's a launch which is happening, I think, in the early hours UTC on the 16th. Should be a good one. Okay. So where are we? So let's go over to the code and see where we are with our project. There we go. So here we are in the code. We're in our main class, the chatbox bot class. And what I'll do, just in case there's anyone in chat that hasn't seen what we've been doing, we'll just give it a run and just show you exactly what we've got so far. I'll run the project here. And we'll get a web page which we need to take the address off. And what we've done is downloaded an emulator, the bot framework emulator, and we can connect to that using that URL. Let me just add API messages to the end of to that URL, and we can connect to our bot. And you can see, so the various components of the bot we've built up over the past few streams. We've got a welcome message, which is here. We've got a hero card with our buttons on, so the 4 things that you can do in the bot. So far, at least, only 4 things, but we'll probably change that in the fullness of time. We've got also a message here, your selected time zone, and currently it is just a dash, so we haven't got a time zone that's been remembered by the bot. Now, this is because our user state is being stored in a memory storage location, so it's refreshed every time we kind of shut down the bot. But in production, we'll be putting that into Azure Blob Storage, so that as you kind of use the bot from various different clients, so for example from Slack or from Microsoft Teams or from Facebook Messenger or whatever, it will remember your information, so it will remember your time zone. And we're having to do the time zone kind of remembering part because it's actually not guaranteed that we can find out a user's time zone from the various channels that are currently supported. Some of them may bring back your time zone, some may not, so we're asking you. So for example, what we can do, we can say number 2 here, find out when a stream is broadcasting next. So this is one of the 2 options we've got live at the moment. We've got number 2 and number 4 working, and number 4 is simply a subset of the dialogues for number 2, and I'll show you that. But if we click on number 2, that's your country. We'll leave it at United States. We can press submit. It'll ask you for your time zone, so it's now narrowed the time zones available to you to choose by your country. So these are all the American or the US time zone, so we'll choose, I don't know, Indianapolis. Submit. It'll ask the name of the streamer. We'll put in Codebase Alpha. Let's return, and now it should come back with some information about code base alpha, and this is a new card we did over the weekend. So it's last time we just simply printed out the text of this, but I tidied it up into an adaptive card, so it kind of formats it quite nicely. Yeah, so we've got the schedule and the next stream. So next stream's on Wednesday. So in fact that's not going to be true. We may stream on Wednesday, but we may stream next tomorrow actually, because I'm very busy work-wise on the Wednesday. So it might be either a late stream Wednesday or a slightly later stream on Tuesday. Not decided yet which of those it's going to happen. We've actually run off the end of the card here, so we might need to do something about getting some wrapping of the text there. But this is all kind of a work in progress. And you notice we've gone back to our menu. And if I hit this button again, it's actually going to ask me for the stream because it's remembered which time zone I've selected. You can see here it says your selected time zone was America/Indiana/Indianapolis. So that is the kind of format of the time zone that we actually store. And now I can say, I don't know, dev chatter. Actually, I'll misspell dev chatter just to show. If I put dev chatter, we still get the answer for dev chatter because we're using a soundex lookup. Links Lumps, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. So yeah, we're using a soundex lookup on our GraphQL client. So GraphQL client is pulling data from the DevStreams project, which with dev chatter is working on, and I've got a test instance of that running up in Azure with a few kind of test streams set up in it. So we're getting his stream back here, and you can see it says dev chatter will be streaming next tomorrow at 2 p.m. and that 2 p.m. of course is in Indianapolis time zone. Okay, so what happens if we don't do what it says here? So we got a menu, got 1, 2, 3, 4. If I say, I don't know, I type 5 in, it basically says you've got to select the menu option. If I just put in test, it's going to just say bring back a menu option. So if I say marry me, then it's just going to say select the menu option. So one of the things we want to do as part of this stream is to try and give the bot a bit of personality, but we'll make that as a secondary kind of secondary aim for this evening. Q Macro, welcome. Thank you for popping by. You're going to call it a night, okay? So, but thank you for showing up. That's really kind of you to pop in and say hello. So we're working on our conversational chatbot tonight, and we're going to look at the sad path. So we're going to look at what happens when we don't do what the bot expects or what we've programmed it to do. So it's kind of handling us not putting the right text in. We can just put rubbish in here and it'll just come back and say, you need to select the menu option. But we want to try and be a bit kind of smarter about that. Rambling Geek, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. So we're going to kind of give the bot a bit of a personality. So you can kind of put messages in there and it'll come back with a retort. Yes, adaptive cards, QMac are looking nice. We're going to have some kind of graphics on these eventually, but they do look good, and they will actually be rendered completely differently on each of the different channels. So when we link up to a different channel, we'll have a different appearance to these adaptive cards. But we code them once. They're coded currently using .NET. We could use JSON to actually create them as well. Actually, let's have a bit of music in the stream just to kind of chill out a bit, because I don't know about you, but I'd have had a very hectic day at work. I had a 918-page document to review in great detail, and that was quite something to have to do. Okay, so we've got that idea. We're going to need to give us a bit of personality, but when we go into this part and we get a streamer, if we type in rubbish, it'll come back and say could not find that person in the database. It's kind of hanging together a bit. If we go now to set the time zones and we type down here, that input is going to overwrite wherever we kind of submit through the adaptive card. We've not actually prevented the user entering text at the prompt. And we hit that and we're going to say something to get wrong, and we're now stuck. We're actually kind of stuck at this point. We can't get back to the menu. Just everything says something's gone wrong. We can type in menu, we can type in start, nothing kind of works. So we need to kind of sort that out. Once we're in a kind of a bad state, we need to kind of be able to recover from that state. And it may mean we have to get the user to type something in, but we need to get back to where we're not stuck inside a dialogue, which we are at the moment. We're actually inside the set time zone dialogue, and basically the bot's lost its way. It doesn't know how to recover from this situation. So let's take that as our first kind of piece of code we need to write. We need to try and handle that. So that's "I'm sorry something went wrong" is actually a message coming from the start up here. So here we've got a piece of code. When we start our bot up, we're adding in this on turn error, and by a turn we mean a turn of the conversation. So the bot asks you something, you reply, the bot responds. That's a turn. So what we need to do is extend this a bit. So here we got this sorry, it looks like something went wrong. What we actually want to do at that point is cancel the conversation and restart it. It's a bit like pressing that button that we've got on the on the emulator, this restart conversation. We want to kind of start afresh. So let's have a look at that. Just let me know if the music is too loud, too quiet, just so that I can adjust that. That's better. I wasn't hearing through my headphones, so sorry for disappearing then, but my headphones weren't quite working then. Okay, so what can we do? Well, there's actually we can actually issue a command, which is to delete the conversational state, and that's what we'll do. So in here we'll just say await, and then we've got conversation state available to us. Yeah, and there's a delete async option, and we pass into there the context. And what that should do is, whatever the conversation state is, if you remember the conversation state is up here, this is another piece of state, as well as the user state, which is what follows a user round. A conversation is state which lasts for the extent or the length of a conversation with that particular user. If we delete that, we should be reset it now to our starting position. So let's give that a go and see what happens. And cheers everybody. Okay. So back to our emulator. Let's restart the conversation. Let's go into setting the time zone. Let's select the United States, and at this point let's just type in rubbish. And it says looks like something went wrong, and if we type in something here, we get back to our menu. So it does require you to actually do something to get the bot to kind of kickstart back into its menus. So we might as well actually tell the user to do something at this point. Where we've got this site, it looks like something went wrong. Let's give an additional message which says type, I don't know, type menu. So we could say something like type menu. Menu, and press enter to continue. So maybe we can find a way of not having to do that, but currently the way I'm kind of understanding how things are working, and I think if we tot up the time, I think it's a total of 10 hours coding and skim reading documentation so far. I haven't really found a way to force it to kind of kick back into the menu automatically without the user actually responding. So we'll try that. We bring our emulator up, restart the conversation, go into number 4, and here we'll just type in test, and it says type menu to press enter. So menu. So that kind of works really, doesn't it? It solves our immediate issue. So we've got a way of actually recovering the conversation back to a known state. rather than getting lost down some rabbit hole of conversation and the dialogues just never manage to unwind themselves. Okay, so the next thing I'd look at is what happens within our dialogues when we get unexpected situations, an unexpected state that's come through. Let's take a look at the when next dialogue first, and we can kind of go through this. So this is a component dialogue, a reusable dialogue. This is our when is a streamer streaming next dialogue. It contains 3 steps. So these are waterfall steps. Simply means waterfall steam steps. They're consecutive steps. We're going to ask the users for their time zone. We're going to get the streamer's name, and then we're going to print out an adaptive card with the streamer's info on it. And we're going to expand that adaptive card a bit later on, probably not in this stream, to include things like the subjects they stream about, their tags. But we're not going to do that yet. And what we see here is that the get users time zone step async, which is the first step. What this is, it's actually it actually begins another conversation, another dialogue. So basically, if in our user state, which is called user selections, if we don't have a time zone stored, then we actually kick off the set time zone intent dialogue. So what we've done, we've nested the set time zone dialogue inside the when next dialogue, and that's just how we kind of do the dialogue reuse. So that looks pretty good. So that seems quite straightforward. So if we haven't got a time zone, which we won't have initially, then run this sub dialogue, this set time zone intent. Otherwise, go to the next step, which is what this does. So if it's not null or white space, go to the next step. The next step is asking you to enter the name of a streamer, and the final step here is where we're going to print out the streamer's information. And looking at this, there's a new thing in here which is the typing activity display. Ancient Coder, welcome to the stream, good to see you. So this is what I figured out over the weekend how to actually display a little kind of typing indicator, which is like 3 dots which kind of flash consecutively across the screen to show that the bot is typing. So it's, imagine there's a human on the other end. This is kind of the idea, that they're kind of typing the information back to the user. And then here what we're doing is we're standardizing the stream name that user typed in, and then we're going into this process here where we are grabbing hold of the data that's coming in from our GraphQL client and displaying it. Okay. So there's a couple of things here which when we write these pieces of code for the happy path, we kind of just tend to ignore. And there's a couple of things here. The first thing I can see is we've got a cast here. So we're casting step context.result, which is an object, into a string and calling that's going to be the streamer name. Well, we're not guaranteed that result's going to contain a string. It's an object. So we need to kind of defend, we need to do some defensive programming here to make sure that if it isn't a string or can't be cast into a string, that we don't do all that's below, which requires to have a string. We need the name of a streamer. So let's start our defensive programming by just popping in this statement around here. So we can say if set context dot result is string, then we can actually start to we can assume that we can grab some kind of a string to put into the streamer name here. So it could still be a null string or an empty string. So once we get the result here, We only want to actually do the rest of this converting it to a lowercase and replacing the spaces, etc., if we've actually got a non-null and a non-white space entry in here. So let's try that. So let's pop in here. So we've got our result, and then let's just pop another if statement around that. So if user selections dot streamer name, and we can say not string is null or empty. Then only do all that really if we've got something which is valid to work on. So if they don't bother entering anything, in fact we'll have, rather than null empty, we'll have null or white space, because we're going to be stripping the white space anyway. Okay, so that's really just a bit of defensive programming there. So Carey is saying it's easy to see it in C#. I've done some Azure bots in Node. Yes, that's because the other way you can do the Azure bots is in Node. But I'm not a JavaScript person, Carey, so it's interesting that you've done these bots. And which version of the framework did you use? Because this is the latest version, version 4.4 I believe it is. And it's changed quite a lot since version 3. So I don't know if you maybe did version 3. We're actually kind of slightly behind. I started the development in 4.2, and very quickly, over a space of a week, I think it was while we were off air, it got updated to 4.4, and they actually made quite sweeping structural changes to how the code is laid out now. And we're kind of in a halfway house at the moment. We're in a halfway house between the basic layout of code as it is in .NET in the framework version 4. And the changes in 4.4. So we will have to make some changes to it, but at the moment it doesn't actually make any difference. We're just not taking advantage of some of the new methods that come with the framework 4.4. But it doesn't matter. We'll kind of include all that and bring it up to date. I need to understand the full kind of extent of what we need to change. But we'll come across that. It's not an important thing at this stage. It all works still. So that should give us some defense against a bad cast that could happen at this point here. And basically, if we've got nothing in the streamer name, don't bother trying to go off to GraphQL and get some information. We know we're going to fail. So in this case, we could actually put an else around this. So we probably won't at this stage, but we could here have else and then print a message saying you didn't enter a streamer name or whatever, but we'll just ignore that for now. What we're trying to do really is start to defend ourselves against the sad path where bad things are input or bad things happen. Which basically might mean that we get errors, and what we don't want to do is to bomb out in the middle of a conversation unless we really have to. So the first thing we did with our error handling, where we made it so we could at least delete the conversation and get back to a known state, is kind of the last resort. We want to try and defend ourselves against that and try and retain ourselves engaged with the user as much as we can. Now, we're not going to be able to kind of make it like a human conversation, but we need to try and emulate that idea, so if things go wrong we ask things again. So the other thing that I wanted to look at as part of this kind of sad path, in fact let's keep to the running order. So we probably need to go and have a look in our set time zone dialog, which is here. So this is another component dialog. It's a reusable dialog. We use it twice. So currently we use it once in the set time zone dialog itself, and we also use it as an embedded dialog within our when next intent. Carey, your middle son is curious to know what time it is for you. It's currently 26 minutes past 9 in the evening. So I guess you're kind of about 6 or 7 hours before that. So he says it's late for me, so I've got work in the morning, so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how far we get with this. So I was working through a very, very large document today. There's nothing more tiring than having to kind of work through that. So, okay. So yes, this is the dialogue where we have the adaptive cards that show the drop-down menus. The first one gets the user's country, the second one gets the time zone, and the third one is the persist data step. So basically this is where we would save that information. So you're welcome, Kerry. Save that information to user state. So in the end it will be persisted to an Azure Blob storage, but we're not doing that at the moment. We're still working in memory. So the first thing we do is get the user's country, and because we're using an adaptive card, this is where things get a bit more difficult, because adaptive cards, they don't interact with the bot in the same way that a prompt or suggested actions do, where we get a choice. So if we go back to the chatbot box here, chatbox bot, sorry, you can see that we have a piece of code here which is detecting a postback, and the postback is basically what's coming from the adaptive card. And what we do is we take whatever is in the postback, in the value that's been posted back, and we make believe the user typed it in. So when they selected United States from the country menu, then basically we're pretending that the user typed in the letters US. If they choose the United Kingdom, we're pretending they typed in GB, and so on. So they're typing in the country code. They're not really doing that, they're actually selecting a menu item. So if we run up the bot again, and we're in here, and we restart the conversation, go set time zone. If I was to type US in here, it still breaks, because it didn't come back as you expect. So we probably need to sort that out. But the other thing that could happen is a user could come here and say, actually, I don't know what to do here. I want to cancel. They type in cancel. And currently we're going to error. The typing in cancel, when you get into a dialogue and the user wants to get out of the dialogue, that's actually a valid thing they should be able to do. So we've got kind of two objectives really. We need to somehow make sure that users kind of use the menus and the adaptive cards that we provide for them. And the second thing we need to do is try to get it so that they can interrupt the conversation in controlled ways, so they can use certain keywords like help or a question mark or cancel or stop or whatever to exit the current conversation. So let's have a look how we can do that, because that might give us a clue then how we can handle erroneous input. So guys, thank you for joining me on the Codebase Alpha episode 24. If you haven't followed, you can see that my follower goal, we're 2 followers away from hitting the goal. So if you haven't followed, greatly appreciate those follows. That will keep you informed about when we go live. The other thing that you can do is to follow me on Twitter, and that will give you much more up-to-date information about when I go live, or when different stream schedules might kind of kick in. So when there might be a pop-up stream or a change of schedule, and that change of schedule is going to happen for Wednesday. I'm not going to be able to make the early stream Wednesday because of work commitments. So the idea is I will either stream tomorrow or later on Wednesday, and I haven't made that decision yet. Depends upon if my wife goes out tomorrow, I'll stream tomorrow. If she doesn't, then I'll stream late Wednesday. Michael Jolly, welcome to the stream. Have you still got your glitter beard? That's what I want to know. And my suggestion was that you didn't shower it off, you went to bed in it, and that would have caused an interesting situation, I think. But that was a great stream. Really enjoyed your stream, so thank you very much for doing that. and your kids are the cutest. So yeah, it was wonderful. I really enjoyed that stream. Okay, let's go over to our documentation. Now, the documentation for the Azure bot service is actually pretty good. And there's lots and lots of sample code, and there's a whole repo of 10 or 20 pieces of actually little mini bots. One of the problems with the mini bots, though, is that they only go so far. They don't show the whole kind of solution. They have, for example, when the adaptive card example doesn't actually tell you how to take input from the adaptive card. You have to work that out for yourself. So there's some improvements to be made, but it's actually, on the whole, it's very good. One thing to watch, though, is there's two versions. There's the SDK version 4 and the SDK version 3. You need to make sure you're on the version 4 SDK. So there's actually a section here on handling user interruptions. Let's go and have a look at what that does. It says handling interruptions is an important aspect of a robust bot. Users will not always follow your defined conversation flow step by step. They may ask a question in the middle of a process or want to cancel it instead of completing it. So we're going to kind of make some basic inroads into handling interruptions, and then maybe we can kind of expand on that as we go through. Maybe not today. And we need to kind of give some thought about dialogue design and how users actually interact with us. Storpenner, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. I haven't seen you around for a long time, so it's really good to have you join us. Okay, so let's have a look at what it says. So there's some sample code up on GitHub, and we can go to that and we can download the GitHub repo and that kind of stuff. But let's have a look what we've got here. Okay, so it's talking about there's kind of two levels of handling leaving dialogues. As on the turn level and the dialogue level. I'm really mainly concerned with the dialogue level, because our menus kind of handle interruptions on the turn level, which is the top level. Everything else is in the dialogue. But we're going to smarten that up by giving our bot a bit of a personality, and that will do that in the kind of second kind of half of the stream, or at least the latter part of the stream, where we try and make our bot a bit more human-like. Because currently it's basically a menuing system. And if you read the documentation that comes with this site, there's a whole section on design, and if you go into there and have a delve, it actually says that that's a great way of starting. You don't need a natural language processing, fully kind of AI aware bot to make it the useful bot. Really, it's just got to serve its purpose in the best way possible. And we kind of add in some bells and whistles in terms of giving things personalities. It's by no means actually necessary. It can be a dry conversation with your bot, but we'll try and have a bit more fun than that. Okay, so this is talking about creating a new component dialog called the cancel and help dialog. And it's got some code we can kind of paste into there, and that seems like a reasonable way of starting. So let's try that. So let's create a new class called cancel and help dialog, and try and work through the sample code that we've got here and work out how to use it. Okay. So we've got our dialogues all nicely tucked away in a dialog folder here. So let's create a new class, and we'll call it cancel and help dialog. Okay, and that's going to extend the component dialog class. So we need to bring that namespace in, and we need a default constructor. Okay. So let's see what the documentation recommends we do next. So the component dialog exposes a couple of methods, one of which is on begin dialog async, and we can override that. And what we can do then is basically when a dialog starts or a dialog continues, we can actually intercept that processing and find out what the user typed and then handle it. If they typed cancel or question mark or help or stop, we can handle it outside, as an interruption to our dialogue. So we don't have to pass that information back into our dialogue and muddy out each of the dialogues up with code to handle the interruptions. We can handle those interruptions as part of a component, and this component is fully reusable. So let's grab this code out of here and pop that into our class. And we need to bring a few namespaces in. So the cancellation token we need to bring in, and we haven't written the interrupt async method yet. There's another override we can make, which is on continue dialog. So we'll add that as well. So basically, it's exactly the same thing we want to do when we on continue. I'm sure it's called on continue dialog. Spell it right. Looks okay. On continue dialog. On continue dialog. Async. There we go. Oh. On begin. What have I done wrong? Let's go back to here. It was called on begin dialog async. There we go. I think I pressed the wrong button on me. So what's it complaining about? It says no suitable method found to override. So I wonder what the methods that we can override are. Let's have a look. I'm sure it was on continued dialogue. How do we find out? Let's have a look. Go to definition. There we are. So on continued dialogue async. Well, that's what I typed in, I must admit. So we need to know what the method signature is. Let's go and have a look what the method signature that was. It was just the cancellation token. There was no options object to go into it. Okay, that explains it. Okay, there we go. Now we need to use the base here. Okay, so now we need to create our interrupt async method. Let's go back to our documentation, have a look what they got next. So it says when the user types help, the interrupt async method sends a message and then calls. Okay, so it does something. Stoolpenner, thank you for the host. Thank you very much for that host. That's wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so here's an example interrupt async. Let's grab that code and just paste it in and see what it does. And we need to bring a couple of namespaces in. That one in. There we go. Okay, so that should compile now. We can get rid of those usings. So basically what we've done, we've said that whenever you begin a dialogue or you continue a dialogue, we're going to process what's called inner DC. So I don't like the name inner DC. So let's inner dialogue context, call it, be a bit more explicit about what it is. Let's go through and just make those changes. Dialogue context. So you will remember, if you've been with other streams on this project, that we do have these contexts that are flying around, and the dialogue context basically is a context object which persists for the length of a particular dialogue, and it's got all kinds of good kind of content in there which we can pull out and send messages back and create replies and things like that. So it's really useful. So basically what we're doing here is we're grabbing the context of the dialogue that we're interrupting, and we're passing that through into the D Trouble. Thank you very much for the follow. So that's 149, so we're one follow away from our goal. Very kind of you to follow, D Trouble, so thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Okay, so let's give this a run and see what it does. We need to do something first though, because we've created this help, cancel and help dialogue, and basically what this is doing, it's providing an implementation or an expansion of component dialogue, and it's overriding these methods, and we want to now use this cancel and help dialogue as the base class of our when next and our set time zone dialogues. We're basically kind of we're using it to intercept the begin dialogue and the continue dialogue methods. So let's do that. So let's grab our cancel and help dialogue, and over here, instead of extending the component dialogue, we're going to extend cancel and help dialogue, and we're going to do the same thing over here with when next dialogue. Okay. Shud Baradi, thank you very much for the follow. That's our target met. So thank you so much. We've hit the 150 target, which is fantastic. So I started streaming late February, and there's no way I could possibly imagine we'd be in this situation. 150 followers is totally amazing. So you guys are just like blowing me away. So thank you very much. Goal, yes, a new goal to be activated. Yes, exactly. So the new goal would be like 200 followers, but maybe 250. I don't know. Let's extend it. But thank you, Agent Coder, for the hype. Yeah. So maybe I should take a leaf out of the Michael Jolly's book and dye my beard rainbow, or put glitter in my beard. Wait a minute, I haven't got a beard. Never mind. So maybe we won't do anything like that. I think rather than doing something special, the stool penner for 200. Yes, the Michael Jolly, I will do it. I think what we'll do, rather than on followers, we'll actually kind of try and make some landmark episode numbers. So maybe episode 50 and episode 100. We'll try and do something a bit different. I'm not promising to dye my hair, because my hair is very white. Go Alf Green on 200. Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, I could go green hair. My wife would really love that. Go down really well at work, that would. Turn up in my suit at work and green hair. Okay, let's have a look. Let's give this a go. So, what should happen is if we go in and we say cancel or quit. Let's have a few more in there. So, case stop. We could let's spell it right. We could even put menu in there, couldn't we? No. Yeah. The case menu. whatever, and that should be enough really to cancel out and stop the current dialogue. We'll just print the word cancelling here, cancelling ... and then what it's going to do, it's going to cancel all dialogues. So that's pretty self-explanatory. It should just stop working. It should just, well, not stop working, but stop the dialogue, and then hopefully, if we're really lucky, it will go back and show us the menu. When we type help or question mark, it's more, I don't really know what that's going to do. It's going to print the word show help, which we'll replace with our help text, and then it's going to just update the turn result to waiting. So we're not sure what's happened there. So Kerry, you know, on the node side you're able to do pattern matching versus literals. Is that still the same? I don't know. You probably can, but I'm not quite sure. So still very much learning what we can and can't do with the framework, and so this is straightly out of the documentation, and they're just doing a switch. So I'm sure we can make this a bit cleverer, but we'll see. Oh yes, there's Alf, Kerry. Alf, our alien friend. Actually, as we've got the 150 followers, let's have some hyperspatial Alf hype in chat. So I've got my Stream Deck, my hyperspace button. I'm going to click that one. We'll see what happens. So we get an infinite number of Alfs appearing in chat. So it really depends at what point we actually hit. There we go, some good Alf there. So that's a piece of code that was written for us by a friend of the stream named FuelSnable. He's into his shaders and his functional languages, and he did that for us. So FuelSnable will be appearing on an episode of Codebase Alpha very soon, just sorting out the details to have FuelSnable on as a guest. And we're going to do a bit of F#. He's going to talk me through creating a parser in F#. So we're going to go a bit functional just for one night only. So that should be quite interesting. But yes, very very happy with that hyperspace hype with featuring our alien friend Alf, who's he's one of the crew members of the Codebase Alpha here. Came across from Codebase Beta actually. He was serving on there and came across to work with us. And yeah, he's a good friend. So I'll call you Should. You're going to watch the Building a Secure Web API Service from Scratch video part 1. Yes, that was the first short series we did, and I really enjoyed doing that because you don't find many examples of building a secure web API on the internet really. There's kind of people talk about bearer tokens and that, but there's no implementation. It's not easy to find an implementation. So FuelSnable, you say you didn't see any compression artifacts on that showing of the hyperspace. Yeah, you never know. Yes, Should. It's an interesting series. I could get some good comments about that short series. It's only 3 episodes. We do go to building in claims and policies and things like that on that series, and it's something which I was particularly interested in doing because I hadn't really seen anyone stream that before, and it started off this whole kind of train of streams all around web APIs. So once we'd done the that simple secure web API, we went on to do an Alexa skill, which is obviously based upon a .NET Core web API. Then we built a GraphQL endpoint in a web API. We integrated that into the DevStreams project over on DevChatter's stream with some PRs into that project. And now, once again, this bot is also a web API. It's a .NET Core web API. So we've got that kind of continuity of use of the web API, a concept going through. So web API, the GraphQL is a different type. It's not a REST API, but it's still basically a web API endpoint. Okay, well, let's give this a run and see what we're going to get. So we'll try cancel first, then we'll try the help and see what happens. Okay. Bring up our emulator and let's start a conversation. So we'll hit number 2. At this point we'll say cancel. And we get cancelling and we drop back to our menus. So basically we've kind of come into an interruption. So let's stick a breakpoint in here and see what happens when we try that again. So we'll do 2 again. And you can see we've started a dialogue. So this is a begin dialogue. So we've come into here, this begin dialogue, and we've kicked into the interrupt, and so it's going to process through. And we can see that here that text, if we look at text here, it's actually the number 2, so it's going to kind of miss out all of these menu options. So continue, and we've come in here again. Looks like for some reason we come in twice, which is interesting. And now we've got our country, so we can pick our country. So we'll choose Tuvalu, hit submit, and now we've hit our breakpoint again. This time the text is null because we've got a postback going on. How big am I on design patterns? I like to use design patterns when I can. What I won't say to you is that maybe we don't start off with a design pattern, that a design pattern will evolve from the code. So I don't sit down with the Ganga 4 book and leaf through it and say, right, we're going to do the command pattern, or we're going to do a decorator pattern. As your code kind of evolves and you start doing refactoring, a lot of these patterns kind of drop out of the refactors. I often find that with things like command pattern, decorator pattern, whatever you want to call it, is that when I was doing the alpha bot, which is currently in chat, then it started off as a whole kind of mess of code, and after a while the whole mess of code becomes quite offensive to a developer, so you start to refactor and tidy it up, put it into classes, start putting it into different projects, and that kind of process is where your design patterns kind of emerge almost naturally from the code. Obviously, knowledge of them, get it working first, then refactor to make it good, and then do optimization if you need to. So that's kind of my philosophy on this. I like to get code working. So same with this project. A lot of this stuff, we started off with all the dialogues in the same class, and then we started to build the components, and then we were able to leverage components by reusing dialogues, so we didn't have the same code in 2 places. So we get the that kind of single responsibility, and the dry principle starts to come in. Those things like dry are often this kind of starting point for building the design patterns into your code. So don't get too hung up on starting off with them, especially if you're doing kind of hobby projects. Don't start off with unless the aim of your project is to kind of get to know design patterns, and you say, all right, I'm going to sit down with the Ganga 4 book or with head first design patterns, and I'm going to build something which looks like a class structure which looks exactly like the book tells me it should. Well, I find that to be less effective than actually evolving the code yourself. So we've got an error here. So I've missed what that was. So let's start the conversation again. We may have just timed out because I was talking. So we've hit the breakpoint. Hit it twice, which is interesting. So we're going to submit United States. Didn't hit it twice then. Something went wrong. Okay, so it was immediately hit an error. So it'd be interesting to know what that error is. So just looking at the code, I'm wondering if it's the null. Now we spotted in here we had a null text, didn't we? So I'm starting to think, I wonder if it's null, then we're getting an error. So let's just kind of make sure that's actually what's really happening. And this is an example of we've taken some code out off the internet, and of course it don't work properly. But that we expect that kind of thing. It's only kind of a pattern to follow. Pure Snowball. Personally, I think design patterns are a tool of communication. As SB says, most devs are capable of to come up with these patterns when the need arises. Yes, that's absolutely right. So functional design patterns, Pure Snowball says, functional programming design patterns, though, I'm at least not clever enough to come up with, so they are good to read about. Yeah. I think I agree with that. I think having, I mean, I still struggle with the mono concept, and people have explained to me several times, and when they're explaining it to me or going through an example, I understand it. But I'm not saying I understand it once they've stopped talking to me. So hopefully, when we have Pure Snowball on the channel next week or very soon at least, he can, if we do come across any kind of monadic patterns, then we can go into that. Functional programming is a different way of thinking. I did a little bit of F# a couple of months ago when I was got really interested in the language from Gareth Hubbell's stream, and Pure Snowball was a regular viewer as well on that. And I did some work with making a Slack library in F#, a very basic Slack library, which does work. You can communicate with Slack via it. But I look at the code now and I think, interesting, so I wrote that. But there's some very interesting concepts in F#, and they're coming across to C#. So all the pattern matching that we kind of do in C# now, that's all coming from functional side, from F#. So C# is becoming a hybrid language just as much as F# is also a hybrid, in that you can do kind of object-oriented things in F#, which would probably make Pure Snowball cringe, but you can do it. But yeah, okay. We stick a breakpoint here. We're running our code. Let's restart the conversation. Let's hit that. We've come in here. We've got the number 2 in there. We continue. Hit it again. We've got number 2. It displays our menu. We choose, I don't know, United Kingdom. We hit submit. We come in here and it's null. So that's going to cause us an issue, isn't it? So let's stop that. So what the simplest thing that we can do here is to put in a bit of null protection in there. So just say not equal null. So we don't go into that switch statement at all if we've got nothing in our text. And what we can do is pop a question mark there as well to just some null coalescence going on. Okay, so let's try it again. We should be able to lose the breakpoint now. So if you're Snowball, you say you do OO in F# primarily to interrupt with C#, absolutely. Or with the .NET framework as as a whole, you have to do kind of object-oriented type things, don't you? Unless you've got an F# library going on. And performance sometimes interesting. Okay, restart the conversation. Yeah, Pure Snowball's got lots of interesting information on functional approaches. He's got a great blog. I don't know. Pure Snowball, you should be able to post a link to your blog into chat. There's some really interesting stuff that Pure Snowball's been doing on defining kind of functional push streams and some other stuff in there, which is really, really interesting. It's quite a challenging read, but it's fascinating what he's been doing. So do post that link in Pure Snowball, please. I do encourage people who are interested to follow that up. Okay, so number 2, we'll select United States, and this time we are asked for our time zone, and we'll just choose, I don't know, Chicago Central Time, and we can put in our streamer, we can put in dev chatter, and we should get, there's our typing indicator, and what happened then? Yeah, but there's our card, and we're back to our menu. So that seems to have worked. So let's try again. Let's try changing our time zone, and here we'll type cancel, and we've gone back. So that seems to work. Let's go back in here again. Submit. Let's type in stop. Okay, that seems to be okay. And again, and then we'll type in help. Ah, interesting. Okay. So we've got 2 show help. So we did notice this was going into. Thank you for posting out links for your Snowball. So do check that out, guys in chat, if you're interested in the kind of functional side. So I say a challenging read, but you know, as devs, we shouldn't shy away from being challenged and have to think hard about some stuff. Makes a bit of a change from kind of the C# .NET kind of thing that we do normally on the stream. So we're seeing it twice. So we come in here, and the word help has obviously been there twice because it's gone and done this. Okay. So let's stop the bot. Let's think about what we actually want to do. So when someone says help, we want to show some help, and that help needs to be context sensitive. It needs to be help that's applicable to the dialogue we're currently in. And we could be into different dialogues. We could be in the get a streamer name dialogue. We could be in the set the time zone dialogue. We could be in the discover things about streamers that discover streamers that stream things I'm interested in kind of dialogue. So we really need to know which dialogue we're in, and we need to figure out why we get it twice. So I think we're getting it twice because the word help is coming in twice. Now you'll remember that when we click on buttons on the adaptive cards, we're actually getting postbacks. So I wonder, at the point where the postback hasn't yet been processed, we haven't replaced help with the actual text from the postback. So if we get over to our chat box bot, I shouldn't have called it that, it's difficult to say. When we get a postback from the adaptive card, we get the value for the postback as a string, and then we turn it into we actually set it to the text value, and that text there is the same text that we're looking at here. So I think that by the time we come back into here, because this is obviously happening at least twice, once on the initial entry of the how is it happening twice? It's interesting. Well, you know, quite figure that. We'll have to look at that. It must be coming in with the word help twice. So let's stick a breakpoint here. Run it up again. Let's see if that theory is correct. That it's actually coming in. The help is surviving the first time we type help. It's coming back in as another help. I'm sorry if I'm not explaining that correctly, but I'll show you what I mean. So we type in, we hit 2. We've got a 2 in there. So our CodeRush visual debugging is showing that this has got a value of 2. And you can see that this whole switch statement is de-emphasized. It's kind of slightly lighter in color. And the CodeRush visual debugger is saying that we're not going to encounter any of those statements because we got a 2 and it's not equal to any of the things in the cases. So we continue. we've come in again, so we've definitely come in twice, and then we've got our menu, we've got our adaptive card. So if I type in help here, return, we've come in here, you can see that text contains the word help, and this part of the switch statement is now kind of bold, and this one's de-emphasized, so we know we're going to, before we kind of press next, we know that we're going to go into here and show that. Let's continue, and we've come in again, it's still got the word help in. So I'd like to kind of say we only get help once. And it's interesting that this is demo code from the website, so it must do it in the demo bot as well, must do that twice. So I'm still curious about this, returning a new dialog turn result of waiting, and what that refers to is when you go into the chatbot, we've got a switch statement here which is looking at the dialog status, and basically it's going to go into this waiting case here, and basically it's going to do a continue, and that's why it's coming in twice, because we've begun a dialogue, we've sent back waiting, and now we're doing a explicit continue dialogue. And at that point the text help is still present in the it's interesting. Okay, so the text help is still present in the activity text, that's why it's coming through twice. Okay, I think I understand that. So there's kind of two options here. Continued dialogue may be the wrong thing to do. I don't think it is, because I think we've got issues with not actually calling the next step of the dialogue. So I think it's correct, at least in our bot, to do that. What we need to do is sort out the fact that the text is still help. So what we can do, we can say that we'll take that and we'll actually physically update it to null. So now when we come back in again from the continue, we're not gonna make it past this kind of guard if statement here. We're going to simply return null out of this method. So let's take baby steps and try that out. Okay. An emulator, restart the conversation, go into here. So we've hit once, hit twice. That's okay because we've still got 2 in there. We're not worried about a 2. It's not one of our kind of magic phrases. Now we're back here, and now we're going to type help. So we've hit our interrupt. We've got the word help in our text. We can continue, and we've only shown help once, which is what we want to happen. Okay, so we're making some progress. However, what it's not doing is say that it displays a little bit of help text about the current dialogue we're in. We actually don't want it then to restart the dialogue, because the user said, oh, hang about, I don't know what I'm doing here. Give me some help with what I'm doing, and then we want to kind of carry on. So Fuel Snowball said, how much do we look forward to null safe programming in C#? Yeah, so that's coming in C#8, but from what I gather, you need some of the bits in the latest .NET Core framework. So .NET Core 3, I think you need some of the bits out of that to use it, which I was quite surprised about. I kind of had the impression that maybe up until now, language features have been kept completely separate from framework features. But I think they've kind of compromised a bit on that, and now you need to have the Framework 3, the .NET Core Framework 3 bits to have the null safe programming. Yes, it's not coming to the old framework either, no. Well, of course the old framework is definitely the old framework now with the announcement about .NET 5. So yeah, .NET 4.8, whatever it is, at the latest one, that's the end of the road for that whole framework, and that's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously it'll be supported for years to come, because there's a long. I mean, certainly at my work, there's a long transition. It's because a lot of Microsoft products are still on .NET 4.5 or .NET 4.6 that we use at work, so we can't just transition across to .NET Core. Any new stuff we do, we try to write in .NET Core, but you simply can't do it for everything. Yeah. Okay. So in this method, it would be good if we could figure out what dialogue we're in. That would enable us to show some context-sensitive help, which we won't bother with tonight, but we'll give us the ability to do that. And also, we can restart the dialogue that we're currently in when people interrupt. So cancelling, yeah, we're cancelling all of the dialogues. That's it, the end of it. You've said you want to stop what you're doing and go back to the menu. But when you do an interrupt like a help, basically what you're saying to the bot is, didn't quite understand that, give me some help, and then I want to continue. Now I think it's going to be a bit hard to continue with the current step, but we should be able to restart the dialogue, or the nested dialogue in this case, which is the select time zone dialogue. So that should be doable. Cody Bird, welcome to the stream. Ancient software being discussed, yes. .NET. I'll tell you what I came across, Cody Bird. This is not quite as bad as your situation, but I had a project which I had to change, and it was written for .NET Core 2, and used the Enterprise library, and I couldn't find any downloads for the Enterprise library. Eventually, my lead dev pointed me at a folder on a shared drive which had an installation for a specific implementation of that library for my company, and just installed that on my laptop, and everything was fine. But yeah, I talk about ancient software. It's not quite as ancient as Cody Beard's experience, but yeah. VB6, 1998, yeah. So Cody Beard, you say you've worked with the Enterprise library and a third-party dependency, yeah. And you go onto NuGet, and there's no packages. Sportitia, thank you very much for the follow. That's wonderful. Really do appreciate that follow. So thank you very much. You've now taken us over our target and into the realm of the next target. So thank you so much. Okay. So let's have a look at how we can get the name of the dialogue that we're executing when we type help or question mark. Okay, so dialogue's quite interesting. So as I pointed out at the start of the stream, and we'll just go over again, when we execute this when next dialogue, we come into here, and if the user doesn't have a time zone already, we actually start a nested dialogue. So we start the set time zone dialogue from within this other dialogue. And what that means is there's actually, how that works is there's actually a dialogue stack, and it pushes and pops dialogues onto the stack. As you say begin, it pushes that dialogue onto the stack, and as those dialogues end, it pops them off the stack. So if your stable says as discussed in Fritz's stream, his opinion is that it should be rewritten, and I agree, but also for seeing it fail horribly a few times. It's hard when you have 10 million lines of VB6 code. It certainly is hard. It's a great challenge, and it's one that Cody Beard is rising to. He's rewriting, I think it's literally millions of lines of legacy code, and struggling with that. So it's I hope that the firm that he works for appreciates that effort, because that's tremendous work to do that kind of stuff. Okay, So we got this idea of we push and pop dialogues onto a stack, and we're going to be able to use that concept here, I think, within our with our code. So what we need to know is the state of the stack. We need the top thing in the stack, and that will be our currently executing dialogue. And if we're in a nested dialogue, the top thing in the stack will always be the current one. So we could be kind of 10 dialogues deep. Yes. Pure says, how hard can it be? Yes. What could possibly go wrong? Rewriting millions of lines of VB6. So let's see what we've got available to us. So this inner dialogue context is going to be the key. Let's just pop that down here and just do a dot and see what we got. And we got stack there, look. So what's that? So that's a list of dialogue instances which sound exactly what we want. So for example, we could get the 0th element of that, and what we get an ID. And the ID should be a string. Let's have a look. It is a string. So that's going to be the name of our dialogue. And by name of our dialogue, I mean these text names, which we need to pull out into constants. There's some other things that the things you don't get around to doing initially is we start putting magic strings, and then there'll be a stream where we'll spend 10 minutes extracting magic strings and getting rid of that horribleness. But we'll do that another time. So Cody Beard says 2 years later, 20% of the way. So 2 years, 10% a year. It's pretty good going though. And you've got a huge code base from what you've told me. So yeah. So Cody Beard says he's made a great discovery the other day. Some of the old services don't respect redirects. So the new service locator proxy doesn't work for over 100 services. How are you going to get around that? Viewer Stable says we need a code fees of features for 10 years as we migrate the code. Yeah, that would be a hard sell indeed, but I think Cody Beard's actually doing this, so more power to him. Okay. So this is going to be in here we want the count -1. That'll be the top element. So if the count is 1, we want the 0th element. If the count is 2, we want the first, the element that's in slot 1, the top. So call that current dialogue. That'll be should be a string. Yeah, that's the name of the current dialogue. So we need to put some defensive programming around that. We can't just do that, but we'll do that in a second. So Kerry says legacy code is a fact of life. It is, and hands up, I'm writing legacy code as new code because we're not using .NET Framework. We just had the announcement that .NET 5 is coming in 2020. So effectively, that's just put everything that I work on, other than the brand new .NET stuff, .NET Core stuff we're writing, the vast majority of the work we do is now legacy. So I'm creating technical debt on a daily basis. Doesn't feel great. Yeah. Okay, so what do we do? What do you want to do? So we've now got the name of the current dialogue here. So we better put some defensive programming around this. So we want to make sure, of course, that so what do we want to say? We want to bring this within our help processing. It's only applicable to help where we want to do context-sensitive help and do stuff with restarting dialogues. So let's pop that in there. So if That is not null. Null, not nil. I'm sure there's a programming language where the word is nil. Creating technical debt daily, one line at a time. Yes, Kerry, that's what we're doing. Right, we're doing worse than that. What we're doing is we're still developing on our old Dynamics our Dynamics CRM system, and we're still doing new development and new project work on that while we are preparing for the project to replace it, throw the existing CRM away and build a completely new CRM and FinOps instance in the cloud in DC65. That's kind of I don't know if that's technical debt. It's just an interesting kind of thing to do. So if we've got any kind of dialogue in our stack, then we can make sure we don't fall over with any errors by doing that. So we should, if our stack is not null and we've got anything on the stack, then we can pull the current dialogue from it. Okay, so let's see what that gives us. So help for, and then we'll just put in the current dialogue. See if we actually manage to do that. Kerry calls it perpetual employment. Yeah. It's interesting that some of the most kind of highly paid people are people who write kind of COBOL, because they're doing lots of maintenance work, and there's so few of them. Brendonius, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. You don't know what we're talking about, but perpetual employment is usually a bad thing. We're talking about legacy code. Yeah, we're talking about legacy code, and we're talking about Coded Beard's wonderful job where he's converting 10-year-old legacy code over to .NET Core at a rate of 10% a year, and so Fuel Snowball suggested a 10-year code freeze. Legacy code is a bad thing, and I was saying, Brendan, that since the announcement for .NET 5, and I'm still working in the .NET framework, from the vast majority of the work I do at work, I'm actually writing legacy code as new code. It's not quite true, I guess it's a bit flippant to say so, but because the .NET framework is going to continue to be supported for a number of years. But that's how it kind of feels now. .NET 5 announcement has kind of put that kind of feeling into all my devs and me. Why can't we just move on to the next version? It is a thrilling announcement, Brendan, I must admit. Earth-shattering, I think it was. I think I said in the Discord it was an earth-shattering announcement. And it's the kind of thing that we're all thinking, yeah, that's what they should do, but they won't do that. They won't do that. But yeah. .NET Core is certainly the way to go, and that's what I'd like to kind of concentrate on with my team, but it's going to be a while until Microsoft move their products that we use to use .NET 5 or .NET Core. Then we can't move our applications which interface with them, because they're totally bound with SDKs which only run in .NET 4.6.2. Okay, let's try this again. So we're going to hit number 2, and here we're going to type help, and we get helpful when next intent. Now that's interesting. We are still in the when next intent, are we, at that point? Guess we are. Let's restart and see what happens when we go a bit deeper. So we submit United States, and now we type help here. So we're in the when next intent. And that's probably right. Okay. Yeah, I think that's probably right. Is that right? I think it probably is. Let's investigate a bit further. So this could come back, this ID could be null, so let's put a null coalescent on that. And then in this concept, in the kind of spirit of sad path programming, well, if not string is null white space dialog. So it should never be the case really, but let's include it anyway. Okay. So I'm still fascinated by this. This is not what we want to do. What we want to do is to rerun the dialogue. Okay. So we don't want to do that. Let's just comment that out for a second. Let's see what we can do. Return in a dialog context dot. What have we got in here? We've got cancel all dialogues. We've got begin dialogue, but we don't want to begin a dialogue because that simply nests. It just pushes another dialogue onto the stack. It's like nesting another dialogue in. We're just getting another dialogue deep. That's not what we want to do. We don't want to cancel all dialogues because that's what cancel does. We don't want to continue the dialogue because you typed help before you filled in a country or a time zone. We don't want to end a dialogue. We want to restart it. So there's a reprompt dialogue and a replace. So what does... Okay, so replace is going to replace the current dialogue with another dialogue, I think. So let's see what... Okay, yeah, so this is going to be current dialogue. And the cancellation token will hit. And that's awaitable. We need to await that. So thinking about it, I don't want to do this. I'm not sure what that's supposed to do. Okay. So if we've got something on the stacks, we're in a dialogue. Get the current dialogue. Make sure it's not null or white space. Print out a message, which will be our help, our context sensitive help. Reset the activity text so we don't keep coming in here multiple times. Replace the current dialogue. Brandy, thank you very much for the follow. That's very, very kind of you. Much appreciated. So yeah, thank you very much. As I was saying, if you don't follow me on Twitter, please do that as well. It looks like looks like I'm not going to be streaming at the same time as normally do on Wednesday. Normally I have an early show on Wednesday from 4 o'clock on UK time, but work commitments mean that's going to be difficult to do because I'll still be at work. So the plan is to either do a stream mid-evening tomorrow, Tuesday, or to do a stream mid-evening on Wednesday. But you'll need to either keep an eye on your Twitch, or probably better to keep an eye on Twitter. Well, I'll keep everyone informed by Twitter that when that stream's going to happen. Also, join my Discord. So Surlydev, when are we playing the F# stream for? So that is currently penciled in for next Monday. So we're going to get FuelSnable to pair program with me. He's going to guide me through creating an F# parser. And FuelSnable can kind of fill you in with the details of that. But yeah, next Monday. Bit of F#. It's going to be awesome. Yeah. It's going to be scary for me, I can tell you. But it's going to be awesome. So yeah, I'm going to get into the idea of having guests on. So we've had Mark Miller on for the Code Rush stream, but we don't have to get famous people in. We don't have to have famous streamers or famous industry people. We can have you guys coming in, so ordinary viewers, what levels is my F sharp? My F sharp is basic. So I wrote a calculator, and also wrote a basic kind of arithmetic calculator, and I wrote a Slack library in F sharp, which is a very small library to kind of connect to F sharp. Connect to Slack over F sharp with WebSockets. Yes, Mark Miller is a famous crazy person. Yeah, yes, he's famous and he's crazy. So the idea is that not only can we get these kind of the industry stars and other members of the live coders team on the show. Let's get ordinary viewers who want to kind of contribute, and if they're up for the challenge of appearing live on the stream, either on video or audio only. I think Pure Snail was going to be audio only, and do some kind of live share coding. Then I think that's something I'd like to encourage. So yeah, why not? Yeah. Okay, let's give this a go, shall we? So we've got so the idea here is we're going to restart. I'm just worried about this value of current dial that's coming back, but we'll see. It didn't quite seem. I'm not saying it's unexpected, but I didn't think it was going to be that, to be perfectly honest with you, but we'll see. Okay, let's restart our conversation. So we're going to select 2. We're going to select United States. Then we're going to say, oh wait a minute, help. It showed some help and it says reselect your country again. That's pretty much what I wanted. It would be nice to get it to slot in once we've got the country to slot into that's the next step in the current. I don't think you can do that. I don't think we can do it by step. So so there's a lot going on in chat here. So Brenda says, I've tried to get one of those famous people to join me for a stream once. Not only did she turn me down, she started her own stream. That's the ultimate answer, isn't it? I wonder who that was. I don't know who that would be. That sounds interesting. Yeah, who was it? Yeah, I think we're going to keep it a secret. I think. Yeah. There's so many fantastic streamers. So if you're not aware of the Live Coders team rather, sorry. So Codebase Alpha is a member. So is Brendan as Dev Chatter. Gareth Hubble is a member. There's a whole bunch. There's about 45, 46 currently in the team. Carey's in the team. So go over and I think you can go to Twitch TV /livecoders and you get the team page. Highly recommend that you take a look at the people in that long list of live coding streamers. Follow all of them. Let's kind of build up this community. One of the big things that's happened in 2019 is a veritable. Thank you for posting that in. You can link as a VIP, Brendan. One of the big things that happened in 2019 is an explosion of live coding, and we've got. I think in the team we've got C# Fritz, who is an ancient coder. I'm very sorry. I'll extend VIP status to you. But you won't be able to do that until post into links into stream till I do that. So never fear. Next time you join the stream, and if I haven't done it, do jog my memory. I will make you a VIP. As I was saying, we've got C# Fritz, who created the team. His partner status now, and a recent joiner into the team is Lana Lux, who's also a partner. So not only we got a load of affiliates, we get a couple of partners. So I'm sorry you won't be able to post that into chat. I've got Nightbot dialed right up. I will actually start to relax Nightbot now, I think. Oh no, don't worry. I will do Ancient Code. I've got a number of VIP slots available, and we'll kind of people who kind of joined the stream and kind of supported me from early on. I think they are the VIPs of the stream, so we'll do that. Yes, so I've got Nightbot turned right up, Surly Div. I'm sorry about that. It's just because I haven't got any moderators, and I do tend to get really quite engrossed in the code. Oh, that's one thing. AlphaBot is running in code at the moment, and one of the things that I do, I get engrossed in the code, and chat goes on. People might want to ask me questions or point out bugs or mistakes I've made. So I added a command to my bot, which is the hey command, and I'll just demonstrate it. So it's got a cooldown of 1 minute, so please don't spam it into chat. But if you type hey, exclamation point hey, so you should get my attention. I don't know if you heard that, but it says hey SMB. So, there you go. So yes, as a VIP, you probably don't get the cooldown. So yeah, so you can grab my attention if I'm kind of rambling on and I've kind of typed a lot of rubbish into code. Okay, so we've started this again. Let's go and submit United States. Let's choose New York time. Let's hit submit. So at this point, we can type help. I don't know what I'm doing. It gives you some help, and it goes back to the right point. So we haven't gone back to the start of the dialogue where we're getting country and time zone again, because we've remembered what those are. So now we can say Def Chater, that famous stream Def Chater, and hit that, and we should get a nice. So it's thinking about it. There's a user typing away madly, and we've got a nice card. Now, interesting, it's printed that twice. Look. I wonder why it did that. We try that again. Let's restart the conversation. Go into here. We'll choose United States. We'll choose New Salem. I don't know what that. Never heard of New Salem, but there we are. We'll type help at this point. Help. Hit return. It gives us some help. It says what streamer do you want. We'll type in Codebase Alpha. I did it once that time, so I think it's just maybe I did something wrong. Okay, that's okay. So it looks like it's come back correctly. We've got a bit of tidy up to do with this adaptive card to get some text wrapping going on there, but apart from that, that looks to be pretty much where we want it to be. So cheers everyone. Death Cheddar, yes. Death Cheddar I know doesn't work, Brendan. When I was working on the Alexa streams, I tried Death Cheddar, and it seems that the sound X simply won't match that. So I think you can get quite close to it, but the actual word Death Cheddar doesn't match, and I don't really know why. You think it should? It does sound a bit like Dev Chatter. Okay. So that seems to be pretty much what we wanted to do there. Let's stop the bot. So it's quite a neat bit of code. We're able now to get an interrupt. We'll do a bit of work on another stream to actually generate some context sensitive help. So we'll know what dialogue we're in. So let's do the next part of what I wanted to kind of look at was over on the chat bot. If you don't type in 1, 2, 3 or 4 or use the buttons on the hero card to actually produce 1, 2, 3 or 4, we actually drop into this default case here on the switch, which basically says select a menu option, display the menus. And that's a bit boring really. So maybe we want to pardon me, we need to inject a bit of personality into the bot so that people can type in they can type in some kind of facetious remarks or ask questions which aren't really kind of part of what the bot is supposed to do. There's two aspects to this. The first is natural language processing, where rather than selecting from the menu, people actually type in what they want to know, and we attempt to process that. And that's very similar to the processing that we did with the Alexa skill kit upon on the Google site, and that not the Google site, the Amazon site, AWS. That is an interesting topic, and we should definitely do some natural language processing in this demonstration bot, really, because it kind of doesn't. It's no good calling it an AI bot if it hasn't got some bit of AI in it. And basically, what we're trying to do is to say, does it match these four options? And maybe we can have some other options as well. What we do need to do is to code these other two options, number 1 and number 3. Number 1 is, if we show the text that's associated with that, number 1 is find out who's live now. So that's what we could write that kind of now. We might fit that in towards the end of the stream if we've got the time. 2 is find out when a streamer is broadcasting, and we need to bring back a bit more information about the subjects that streamer broadcasts about. And 3 is the interesting one: discover live coding streams covering things I'm interested in. This is where we're going to present you with a list of tags from the DevStreams project which are currently in use. You'll be able to tick the ones you're interested in, and it will try and find a streamer or streamers that satisfy those interests. So you might select Rust and F#, and it should find Gareth Hubble, for example. So whether it needs to find it as like an and, so it's got to be F# and Rust, or it's F# or Rust, is an interesting question. I'd like to know what people think about that. Do they want it like scored, so the ones which match all of them kind of appear near the top, and then ones that start to kind of only match 1 or 2 of the selected items appear kind of lower down in the list? That might be quite a challenge, but it might make it quite interesting. That I'm not quite sure how to do it. However, we could try to score matches, and what we'd do is actually write that in GraphQL as a GraphQL query over in the DevStreams project itself as a PR. And so that might be something I'll look at. We can do that on stream and raise the PR on stream as well. I keep saying we'll raise PRs on stream, so I've never actually managed to actually do that. So those are things we can do. Stillpenner, you got to go. Thank you for joining us, Stillpenner. It's great. And thank you for wishing us a good stream. We do appreciate you joining. Okay, let's go with this kind of personality thing. Because I did do some preparation on this, because there's some Azure work you have to do, and I didn't want to do the Azure work on stream. Although I will say there's a great Chrome extension out there called Azure Mask, which one of the live coders, Clarkio, developed, and it's actually been taken off the Google Chrome store. He's made some changes to make it compatible with the latest Chrome and trying to get it back onto the store, but it's not really kind of flying on there. They don't seem to want to take it for some reason. However, it's gone, Brenda's. Yes, it's gone. However, what I did find is I've got Chromium Edge here. Sorry about the white. This is the insider ring for Edge, the Chromium version. And if you look up here, I've got Azure Mask running in Chromium Edge, and it works brilliantly. So yes, now, Kerry, if you try and install it, it installs and immediately disables it because it's not in the store. Ed Charbonneau, welcome to the stream. Yes, supporting #LiveCoders. Yes, thank you very much for joining us. I do love your stream. It's fantastic, the Blazor stream. Oh, thank you for the subscription. Oh, I'm gobsmacked. That's really, 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 really generous of you. Thank you so much. Fantastic. I never ever expected to get any people subscribing to the channel. That's most gratifying. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you very much for the good wishes as well. Okay, so that's Chrome Edge Azure Mask. You can bring that into Chrome Edge and it works brilliantly. So just in case you didn't know that works. Chrome Edge, what it does, Azure Mask, what it does, it actually kind of blurs out any sensitive information so that you don't accidentally show it on stream when you're in the Azure portal. But I didn't want to risk that, so if we go over to my Edge here, you can see I've got a blog post that I found about using Q&A Maker and linking that into your MS-Bot framework. So what Q&A Maker is basically it's a way of enabling your bot to take natural language questions, and it will then pass a number of documents, FAQs or whatever, and try and answer the question based upon the FAQ documents. So that's why it's called Q&A Maker. Basically, you build up a knowledge base of. Brendonius, thank you for the subscription. Wonderful. Oh, it's from Michael Jolly. Thank you, Michael, for the gift subscription. So Brendan's saying you recommend caution when using Azure Mask. You reduce the odds of showing something. Yes, absolutely. But I've had to go and edit some videos to kind of obscure subscription IDs and things like that got out when I was still very much more carefree about the streams. And so Azure Mask will kind of give me that bit of extra kind of confidence. Looking over Slevin, welcome to the stream. Good evening to you. Hype in chat. So we'll give you some hyperspatial hype as well for those wonderful. I do keep forgetting to do this kind of thing. So this is our hyperspatial hype effect with lots and lots of alpha. So all this effect that's on the screen at the moment is quite small because it does seem to cause some stuttering of the stream if I make it any larger. We're going to try it a bit bigger. So it's not available from within chat at the moment. It's only on my stream deck. So I'll give you another one because we've got a couple of subscriptions there. So many alfs as well, infinite number of alfs. There they are. So that's Fuel Snable's work. So fantastic, isn't it? Ed Charbonneau. So you notice also, Ed and Brendan, you've got your rockets. So your rocket pilots now. Thank you for joining us, Brendan. Have a good evening, or a good afternoon or evening, wherever you are. And thanks for joining us. Okay, so I said I found this article about Q&A Maker and put it into your bot. So what it enables you to do is to kind of pass over a knowledge base, which can be built up of documents, FAQs and things like that, which you can just kind of publish up to the Q&A Maker, and it'll create your knowledge base from that. And people can type in natural language questions, and it should kind of try and find an answer. And it comes back with a confidence score, and you basically say that if it's over a certain threshold, you're fairly confident that's at least a semi-applicable answer to whatever the user typed in, and they will get some kind of help that way. So yes, look in number 7. We're going to do a Q&A Maker thing, but we're not actually going to do a knowledge base as such. One of the other things that's available on Q&A Maker now is something called Chit Chat. And what this enables you to do is to give your bot a personality. So there's 5 or 6 personalities available. The most kind of straight-laced is professional. Yes, there's sarcastic. There's friend. There's comedian. There's witty. There's a couple of others, I think. And I've chosen witty as to be the personality we're going to give to our bot. And I've not tried it out. I've just set the basics up in the background. So So we'll kind of give it a go, shall we, and see what our bot looks like when it's got a witty personality. So this is going to work initially when we're going to kind of code this so that it works when you're at the main menu. So you're presented with your 4 options. You decide to go and type something else, and it should come back with some kind of response, hopefully witty, and then say, well, but please select a menu option. So it's not just going to come back with a please select a menu option when you type rubbish in. It's going to try and come back with something a bit human. So let's have a look at what we need. So we've got Q&A Maker. I've been to the Q&A Maker website and I've created a knowledge base. I've done all my Azure stuff, as it says here. So I'll post this into chat. It talks about the preview version of version 4 of the bot framework, but everything in here should be applicable to us. I followed all these steps, except when I got to connect to the Q&A service, your knowledge base. I didn't do any of those. So I did that bit. I didn't populate my knowledge base with an FAQ document. I simply went through and enabled chit chat. And I chose the witty. I think I chose the witty. I'm pretty sure I chose witty as the personality we want to give the bot. So it created a knowledge base for me, and I published that knowledge base like that. And I took these values and popped them into my user secrets, and I also created those entries in my app settings.json. Yeah, so we've got our knowledge base ID, a knowledge base host, and our endpoint key, and the ID of the knowledge base and the key are in my user secrets, so we can safely commit this code to GitHub without revealing those secrets. Okay, now we need to update the bot code, and the first thing we need to do is to bring in a NuGet package. So this is the Microsoft Bot Builder AI Q&A package. So let's do that. It's not being here. So it was Microsoft bot builder. AI, wasn't it? Q&A, that one there. Version 4.4.3. So already we've moved on from version 4.4.0, which I've got all the rest of the components, and we've got this this .3 point release that's already been. So that this framework is very much being developed. Okay, so we're going to have to bring in 4 point. Oh, interesting. Downgrade from 4.2 to 4.4. There isn't a 4.4. Okay, well, let's just try referencing it directly in the. Let's try referencing directly in the test proj. .ai .Q&A, was it? .Q&A. And it was 443, was it? Let's see if we can bring that in. Yeah, doesn't like that. I'll try 440, but it doesn't like that, wasn't it? We might have to increment everything. There we go. Looks like we got it. Okay, well let's leave it at that, and if we get any problems, I'll increment all of these to 443. and rebuild. Okay, so we've got that. Let's have a look what the next step is. So we want to put some code into our configure services. We can certainly do that. So that's the threshold. Okay, so this code here basically is pulling out the values from our configuration, which we'll do differently to that. Then it's setting up Q&A options. It's setting up a floating point score threshold for when we get a confident match. So 0.4, we may want to increase that. And we're going to get the top one response, which is what we want to do. Otherwise we'll get null. And then we're going to return a endpoint. Okay, well let's just grab all that code and try it in our startup class. Okay, so we don't want to do that way, so this is going to be configuration big. Honestly, my spelling. Yeah, let's make them all like that. We can get rid of that code. And we can bring in namespaces. I wonder if we have got this. There we go. Q&A maker. Things have changed, haven't they, since this? Let's have a look. It wants an endpoint options and the HTTP client, which is null, so that's okay. We should be okay with that. Oh, okay. There's some problems. There we go. Okay, let's just grab the values out of our JSON file. Knowledge base ID. It's going to come over here. Knowledge base ID is that one. And then we've got our knowledge base host. That's over here. And we've finally got our endpoint key. Okay. So we should be able now to inject this into our bot class. So it's a Q&A maker. Yep, so there's injecting Q&A maker into there. So let's do that. So in our bot class, bring down constructor. We'll do it before there. We'll do Q&A maker. Q&A. That. And then we'll have up here private read-only Q&A maker. Q&A. And down here. Q&A equals Q&A. Q&A does not exist in the current context. It should do. What have I done wrong, guys? It's getting late. Getting late. Oh, they've used a property. Okay, we'll use a property as well, shall we then? Let's see what we should do, but that's a bit weird. I'm not quite sure I understand that. Let's move that up into the properties. There. Okay. So let's go back to the blog post and see what else they do. Okay, so this is where they're adding in the give Q&A maker a chance to answer the question. So okay, well, let's just pinch this piece of code for now. We'll have a play with that. So what we want to do is we want to kind of, now we'll move this out into its own method at some point, but what we want to do here, so we're going to pass the turn context in, which will basically is going to pass in the what the user said at this point. So this is only if they haven't hit a menu option. We need to bring link in. If the search is one or more answers, send the first one. So it's going to send back the first answer, else echo back what the user typed. We don't want to do that really. We just want to, if Q&A maker came up with a witty response, we'll send that back to the user. We can get rid of the comment. Okay. Fire it up. Let's see what happens. We've got our emulator here. We'll restart the conversation. And it doesn't seem to want to work, does it? So we hit an exception straight away. So what's exceptions handled? It's saying system argument knowledge base ID. Endpoint key is not coming through from my. Why is that not coming through from my user secrets? I'm just going to I didn't do it on stream really. Okay, just for the purposes of getting this done, on stream and not fiddling around with user secrets. I'm going to just take that off screen, and I'm going to set the values. I'm going to set the values manually. I'm a bit concerned that we can't see those values. Why is user secrets not wanting to play ball with me? Interesting. Just check my user secrets file. This should just work, I'd have thought. But we'll do it the hard way. I can easily regenerate these if they do leak out. But don't let me don't let me push this code to GitHub, will you? Okay, let's bring this back over here. If I do expose those keys after I just have to regenerate them. Okay, let's try it again. Okay. Restart the conversation. Here we go. Okay, so here we're sitting at a menu and we decide, I don't know, what kind of facetious message can we type in? How are you? It's not facetious yet, let's get normal. And it's come back and says, awesome, thanks for asking. Please select the menu option. Okay, what do you recommend? This is what I do every day, it's great. Okay, perhaps a bit a bit tenuous, but how old are you? I'm a bot, so I don't have an age. What is your name? Someone forgot to name me. Okay, so it's just coming back with some kind of decent stuff. So I think maybe looking at Slevin's idea of the sarcastic bot might be a bit better. Will you marry me? Ah, you're so funny. So I guess haha, you're so funny is going to be a fairly common message. So that's pretty much all there is to giving the bot a bit of a personality. So it'd be interesting to see if we could actually make it do anything once we get here. You type in how are you? What it's going to do at the moment is say, looks like something went wrong. Type a menu, press menu to enter continue. So I wonder if we could intercept that. Now the problem we've got there is that those values are being picked up by the in the startup file. What we've got down in the startup file, we've got our error handler here. I wonder what we got access to. We haven't got access to our Q&A thing, so we can't do an awful lot. So I'll have to think about that. It's not so applicable when you're in the dialogue, because you're expected to respond by selecting from the drop down. Slayer Darth, welcome to the stream. I haven't seen you before. Everything's going well, thank you. So we're just coming towards the end of the stream now. So we're working on a conversational chatbot using the Microsoft chat bot framework, the bot framework version 4. We've got a bot here which its purpose is to help you find information about live coding streamers. So we're just about started out on that project. There's 3 streams into the project. I'll show what it does at the moment. So we've got an emulator here. We'll start a conversation. So we get a welcome message. We get a nice menu. Choose 1, 2, 3, or 4. So we've got option 2 and option 4 are the current working ones. So if you hit option 2, it asks you what country you're in. You say United Kingdom. You ask what time zone. There's only one option, United Kingdom time. It asks you what stream you're interested in. If we put in Dev Chatter, which is another streamer, then it comes back, and Dev Chatter operates out of the New York time zone. He entered all his information in New York time, and it comes back and it translates those times into UK time. So we're using a GraphQL client to go and query a system called DevStreams. Ed Charbonneau, thank you very much for joining the stream, and have a good one. Take care. Yeah, so it comes back in whatever time zone we ask for. So that's the basics. We can reset the time zone. Once we set our time zone once, we don't have to do that again. So if we switch 2 again here, then we can put in Codebase Alpha, and you'll get the same information in the same time zone, because we remember the time zone. That time zone information should be persisted across conversations once we get that set up. Currently it's in memory, so it's not persisted. And what we've just been doing is giving the bot a bit of a personality. So if you sit here at the menu and you type in, I don't know, what colour are your eyes? Then it's going to come back with some kind of witty response. I'm happiest being your pal. So okay, so not always going to be. We can probably go into the Q&A maker and set up some more appropriate responses and train it on that. Is it currently hard coding the time zone? No, it's dynamically set. So what we can't do, Slayer, is we can't determine the user's time zone reliably from any of the channels available to us. So some channels, if we put our bot into Slack, for example, that may well come back with the time zone, but Facebook Messenger I don't believe will do. So we can't guarantee that we can intuit it from so I'm just laughing at Michael Jolly's comment. They're getting pretty personal with the bot. Yeah, so I remember there was a wonderful Dilbert cartoon where Wally, who's the lazy programmer or the lazy engineer, starts developing a relationship with a chatbot on a plumbing site. But anyway, so we can't figure it out reliably. Now on our Alexa skill, which does basically the same kind of stuff, we can interrogate the user's device and find out what time zone they're in. So it's all automatic. But in this one, we can't figure it out. So what we do is ask them. The first time we need to know the information, we ask them, then we persist it. So for example here, you can see that we've got our time zone as Europe, London now, and it'll remember that. And when we go live with this bot, it will remember that for you as a user. Does the Facebook API not expose the user's country? It may well do, but once again, we can't guarantee that any of the channels we might want to connect to will do that kind of thing. So we've got a kind of once only question. Ask them once, remember it, persist it for that user in permanent storage. In this case, it's going to be in blob storage on Azure. But then give the option to reset the time zones. And before we might want to say, well, actually, we live and work in the UK, but we're currently in Belgium or we're in the US, and I still want to find my favourite streamer or find out when such and such is streaming. I can now temporarily change my time zone. So that's the idea. What I've been working on today is trying to take care of some of the sad paths through the process. So it was all very much happy path programming. So now we've got, if we just type in rubbish, for example, we've got it comes back and says that's menu option. We've got some interruptions. So if you start off setting your time zone and you type in stop, it will stop that process and go back to the menus. If you start the process, you submit your country, and then it says, oh, I don't understand what I'm doing, what's help? Then it will give you some help, which will eventually be context sensitive. It's just printing out a message at the moment, and then it restarts the dialogue. So that's really been what we've been doing, and there's other things we need to do. So here we can type in, when the country, we can type in US, for example, but it will still fail. So we need to figure out what to do in that case. But that's another part of the sad path. But we're kind of coming towards the end of the stream, really. So we're probably going to wrap up, having kind of reached this state. So I need to remember not to commit this to GitHub before I remove the secrets, and figure out why our user secrets file is not being read. But apart from that, I'll just let you know that all the code will be on GitHub. It's all open source, all available to you to go and look at, to use as you will, to fork a repo, produce some PRs if you want to. And so there's my GitHub. All of the videos for this stream are retained on Twitch for 60 days, but I will be archiving them 24 hours after broadcast to YouTube. Here's my YouTube site. Please visit YouTube and subscribe. It's completely free to do so. That helps me out tremendously with my YouTube side. Also, you'll get notifications when I push a video up there. In terms of being kept informed, hitting the follower button is one of the best ways of being kept informed of when Codebase Alpha is broadcasting. And please, if you haven't followed, do that. Thank you, Kerry, for the kind words. And Asterix, yeah, I know that you follow. That's fantastic. Called to find an older streamer. Yeah, I don't know if I'm the oldest live coding streamer. Perhaps I am, but I've got plenty of experience. Oh, you're from the UK as well, dear Slayer. That's great. So follow me on Twitter to be kept absolutely informed of when the next stream is going to happen. Oh, that's misspelt. So there's my Twitter account. So follow me on that. So the next stream is scheduled for Wednesday. However, I've got very, very busy work commitments on Wednesday. So I'll either be streaming tomorrow in the evening, or it'll be Wednesday in the evening rather than the 4 o'clock early show that I normally do on a Wednesday. You write PHP for a living, player. I do commiserate. Well, it's a joke, isn't it, really? But I'm sure PHP. So I've never used PHP, so I don't know anything about it. So I'm just kind of repeating kind of memes that people kind of come out with PHP. But we're basically a C#.NET Core stream. However, next Monday, one of our viewers, Fuel Stable, is going to join me on stream. We're going to do some F#, just for a bit of an interlude. Ask a question away, Slayer. My first language was Fortran. Well, I say Fortran, that's not true. My first language was a version of BASIC. Back in the day, I was what was called a computer hobbyist. This is when home computing didn't exist. So when you had a home computer, you were a hobbyist. It was a thing called an Ohio Scientific Superboard 2, which is basically a bare circuit board with a keyboard glued to it. A full keyboard though, it was good. It was a nice keyboard, and it had BASIC in ROM. So that was my first programming language. However, the first programming language I wrote anything was any use would be in Fortran when I was at university on the mainframe at the university. So yeah, so I go quite a long way back. Done lots of different kind of languages, lots of different things. I'm very much a back-end programmer, so I'm not very good at the kind of the JavaScript front-end UI kind of stuff. 6502, yes, I used to teach 6502 assembly language at I don't know if you're old enough to remember the youth training scheme, which was a kind of a youth pre-employment scheme back in the day. So I worked at an institution called an ITech, which is an Information Technology Centre, part of the YTS, the Youth Training Scheme, and one of the courses I did there was to teach 6502 assembly language, which was quite a lot of fun. But that was many years ago, and I've forgotten an awful lot about what I used to do. I've been all kinds of things. I've been DBA. I've done C programming. I've not done C++. But I think my favourite is C# at the moment. You're a young whippersnapper, yeah, you won't remember things like the YTS. Yeah, well, it takes all sorts, doesn't it? And there's plenty of younger people who stream and some middle-aged people, so why not some of the older generation doing something as well? I'm hoping I have a slightly different approach as well. So that it's I tend to be slightly more serious than other coding streams. So not so much of the kind of the sound effects and the WYSI effects. So I do have a WYSI effect. I have my hyperspatial hype, which has got this one, which has got my alien friend Alf appearing in a kind of millions of ways. C# Fritz, welcome to the stream. Stream is great for sharing with all ages, no judgment at all. You're doing a great job. Thank you very much. I do. You do love the hype as well. I do love the hype. That's Fjord Snable's work. So thank you for popping in, Jeff. It's really great to see you, and I'm glad you agree with me that there should be no age barriers to this, and we need all kinds of people, all genders, all approaches, all types of stream, software, hardware. We need the kind of flashy professional streams. We need kind of more like mine, a bit more amateurish. And we need ones which are focused mainly on having a cool, relaxed time. One of my favourites for that is the Michael Jolly does a nice relaxed stream, as does Rambling Geek. Unstructured and relaxed and really cool. And then there's kind of my kind of stream, which is a bit more focused, a bit more code, I guess. But everyone's their own. I mean, I must admit, the squad stream that C# Fritz did with Fierce Kittens on the weekend was the most amazing thing, and to see them actually convert a WPF/WinForms application across to .NET Core 3 in front of our eyes was amazing, and it basically worked first time. Thank you for the follow, Slayer. That's very kind of you. We've now well over our initial target, so that target will be moving on. But I really appreciate every follow I get. They're most unexpected. So thank you. Yeah, Ed Charbonneau was here, and Dev Chatter was in stream as well. So we had lots of illustrious visitors as well as our regulars, and appreciate the visitors as well as the regulars. C#, thank you for the subscription, Jeff. That's marvellous. Oh, I'm so chuffed. Oh, it's a Michael Jolly gift. Oh, right. Thank you, Michael. That's wonderful as well. So now you'll have the Alf emotes. There's 2 emotes at the moment. I'm trying to get some more Alf emotes done, and you'll have a little rocket badge. There it is, the green rocket for your subscription. So you're now a rocket pilot on Codebase Alpha. Okay, so I think I'm going to try and find someone to raid now then. So I'm sorry if you've joined towards the end of the stream, but I've got a full day of work ahead of me tomorrow. A very difficult full day of work, in fact. As I was saying earlier in the stream, I went through a 918-page document which I had to review in great detail, and then we're meeting the people who created that document tomorrow, our suppliers, to go through it, and I'm going to tell them all of the issues I've got with the document, and there's quite a lot of them, and we're going to go through and kind of thrash that out. So it's definitely a G Fuel day tomorrow and on Wednesday. So I'm going to need the G Fuel to keep me through that, and it's going to be a very interesting couple of days and a very tiring couple of days. But I'm looking forward to it. G Fuel, yeah, way Fazeberry for the win. Yes, it's fantastic support, Jeff and the team, and it's wonderful to see so many people going around. Live coders, high five, yeah. Okay, so let's find someone to raid. If you've got any suggestions in chat, do fire away. Otherwise, we'll have a look and see who's on my list who's live at the moment. Which might not be many people. Suggestions in chat, do fire away. Otherwise, we'll have a look and see who's on my list who's live at the moment. Lovely delay here. So I've got no one on my list who's currently live. Has anyone got any suggestions? Lana's broadcasting shake. I've raided her once before, so let's raid Lana Lux. Yeah, she's one of our new live coders members. Mr. OneDev, thank you very much for the follow. Wonderful. You just popped in towards the end, unless you've been lurking. So we're just about to raid Lana Lux. She does some game programming, I believe, but we'll see what she's going to do. Do stick around for that raid. Otherwise, I will see you either tomorrow or Wednesday. Keep an eye on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter to be kept abreast of when I'm going to be streaming next, because the schedule that's published for the Wednesday at 4 o'clock won't happen. So we're hoping for either a Tuesday or a late Wednesday stream. So take care, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Thank you, Jeff, for popping in. Thank you, the Michael Jolly. Thank you, Carey. Thank you, everyone else, for popping in. And we'll do this raid now. I'll do a shout out to Lana's raid, yeah.